Hi, this is Todd, and today I'd like to go over a really interesting case that came in. I had a consultation today with a loan officer in Ohio, wonderful guy who was sitting down with a client and had a situation. I thought, this has probably come up quite a bit, and I think this would be a good case to talk through, as well as just to highlight some of the key features and the unique aspect of how the software works to tell a story. This particular client has a mortgage now with Bank of America, 288,463, 4.875 current interest rate, 3.315 after-tax EPR. He's paying $21.53 a month, and we can click on the box and see he's got $548 in taxes right now, $57 in homeowners, and no other payments. He refinanced with this loan officer as part of a debt consolidation. This particular loan officer had helped this client get all of their other debt cleaned up and in good shape less than a year ago. He has 350 payments to go on this particular mortgage. But the opportunity right now is too exciting with current interest rates for them to not look at an alternative. And in this case, the client wants to move from a 30-year to a 15-year term to pay off that mortgage even faster. Now, here's the challenge. The property value came in at $345. Lower than they had expected and lower than when they had appraised in the prior year. So the mortgage that they would want, the $288,463, which is the new loan amount, is 83.6%. Now this client had just gone through getting completely out of debt and did not want a HELOC, did not want a second position mortgage. So what they did, and I'm going to pop up the little payment box here. Remember, this is where you put in your payments. They have the same property taxes and homeowners insurance, but he got a quote from a local MI company that said that they would provide MI at a 30% coverage ratio for $71 a month. Now that would be tax deductible, so we check the tax deductible box, and also that would take 36 months or 3 years for the mortgage balance based on the new loan to reach a point where the MI would be below 80%, where they could phase that out. So he simply puts in MI to stop after 36 payments, and we click Save. Now we have our before and after on the scratch board. I've got a new 15-year fixed, 83.6% LTV, loan amount's the same, new pre-tax rate of 3.75%, and I can see the payments going from $21.53 to $27.75. Now let's look at the three main questions that we want to answer for the client. The first one being the transaction cost. Can I afford it? So in this transaction, there's a 0.30 origination fee, closing costs of $32.98, prepaids of $23.07, so a total of $64.70. So he's going to have to bring to the closing table about $6,500. Now the yellow can communicate that, hey, that $23.07 is going to come back to you, because those are prepaid you'll get back from your current lender. So another way you could do this and address this is you could show the $23.07 here as a prepaid, but it's going to come back in the form of a rebate. So you're going to have to bring what? You're going to have to bring the full $6,500 and $13 to the closing table. But if I want to look at it a different way, I can say that's what you're going to bring, but in reality, you're going to actually end up really out of pocket about $42.06, because it's not a true closing cost. So the first question is, can you and are you comfortable coming to the closing table with $4,206 to do this transaction? And the client may say, well, yes, I can do that. And the next question is, should I do that? And why would I do that? We want to answer that by looking at the cash flow. Well, the current cash flow compared to the new cash flow on an after-tax basis, pre-tax looks a little better, but because we're lowering the interest rate, we're losing some tax savings. So on an after-tax basis, this client will be paying $686 a month extra out of pocket. And that, of course, includes that MI payment, and that's going to be there for that first 3 years. So far, if I was a client, I'd be saying, well, darn, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to have to come out of pocket with $4,206 and pay an extra $686 a month. Why would I want to do that? And that's where the total savings really comes into play, because now what we're going to do for this client is we slid this over to 15 years because that's his target time frame. All right, I don't want to go out 30. I want to go out 15 and compare what he's doing now to what he's going to do over 15 years if he moves forward with this transaction. Now the property appreciation rate, this loan officer and this client are in Ohio, and they used 2.8%. So I'm using, this is actually from the LO. I'm just using his plan to talk this through. They're using a 2.8% appreciation. The house value will be the same in either situation. If he keeps his current mortgage, which means he keeps paying his $1,603 net after tax, and he spends nothing at all out of pocket, I can see here that he'll still owe $188,992 at the end of 15 years. He'll still have no other liabilities, and he'll have net equity in his house. I'll go ahead and shrink these up for a second just so they don't get in the way. Net equity in the house of $335,828. Now over here with the 15-year mortgage, his house value is going to be the same, $524,820, but his mortgage balance will be zero. He'll have no other liabilities. And what's the difference here? The opening balance of $4,206. That's a negative number because I had to pay that out of pocket. So he's actually reduced his equity by $4,206 because even though he didn't reduce his house equity, he had to pay that out of his pocket. So he has in fact lost that $4,206 at closing. So we net all that out. And the first part I can see that's sort of a compensating factor is that I have an extra $184,786 in equity at the end of 15 years. So that's pretty cool. Now I expand the payment comparison. All right, and we're just going to look at just the payment comparison because I may want to keep this simple for this client and just compare the payments alone. He's going to pay $179 in interest over 15 years versus $89. He'll pay $108.9 versus $111, and the difference here obviously is he's got that extra MI is in here. He's got $99,471 in principal versus $288, tax savings of $88 versus $60, because again he's paying a lower interest rate and paying it off faster. All that magic is in the math here. It's being calculated for you. Your payments $298,633 versus $428,399. So I can see from a payment standpoint, he's paying a much bigger payment. Remember the $686 a month? He's going to spend only $298,633 over that 15 years in his current mortgage. He'll pay $428,399 here. That's again that difference in that monthly payment. So he's going to pay an extra $129,766. But look how easy this was. He's got positive $55,020 in this transaction. So this is going to generate for him, if he goes forward, if he's willing to spend the $4,206 now and the $686, we've now incorporated the $4,206 and the $686 in the form of this payment difference. He's netting $55,020. That's his positive gain here on this transaction. I can come over to the repay screen and look at that graphically for a minute, and I can see over here, if I were to slide this out to 30 years, here's what happens in 30 years. In 29 years, 2 months, you're debt-free. But if you look at my new recommendation here, over 15 years, you're debt-free and everything's paid off. Okay, so you can illustrate this graphically there. But I want to show you one more thing, and this is something that threw the loan officer off a little bit when he first saw it. Okay, but it's actually a very, very powerful conversation tool for you to have with your client if you choose to do this. If I expand the prepayment comparison, okay, and notice I didn't need that, right? I could just go through these two levels and show this client the difference after 15 years in each category. And again, could I do it in 30? Sure. I just go out to 30 years and I go through and compare the difference over 30 years. You can see over 30 years, his savings is over $100,000. Okay, but let's just go out 15 years. And I can do that with that. But if I expand the prepayment, it's going to give me even more detail and break that down for me. It's going to show the opening balance, the house value, the mortgage difference, the savings and all that, the total equity and payment difference, and again, the same number, $55,000. But notice it says debt-free in 350 months versus debt-free in 279. Well, what threw the loan officer off is he's like, well, wouldn't he be debt-free in 180 months? And the answer is yes. If I go back up here to my scratch board, he owes 350 payments on his current mortgage. He'll only have 180 payments on the new mortgage. But are we comparing apples to apples? We're not, because in this scenario, his monthly payment is going up by $686 a month. So what is this really doing for us? This is actually normalizing the debt-free date. And it's saying he currently has 350 months to be debt-free. But if he paid the exact same penny for penny expense over time, he would be debt-free in my scenario, my recommended scenario, in 279 months. So I want to make sure that that's clear. 180 months is what he has remaining, but that's not really a fair comparison, because to pay off in 180 months, he has to pay an extra $686 a month. What the software is doing here is it's normalizing for the client this comparison to say, look, all things being equal, I am taking 71 months off your mortgage, comparing what you're doing today versus my new scenario. And again, what's even cooler is if you don't want to have this story or share this with a client, simply shrink it up. It not only doesn't appear on this page, but it won't appear on any of the reports or the other information that you're doing. But if I was telling the story, I'd say, look, if you keep where you're going right now and you keep making the payments you're making today, you will be debt-free in 350 months. But if you go with my new 15-year at the current stuff, penny for penny the same expense, you'll be debt-free in 279 months. And that's a pretty cool, compelling reason, because I remember our goal here is to help move the client quickly through the process. And to do that, we have to overcome the three most important obstacles. If I saw and stopped here, you're going to spend $4,200 with me, client, to do this. Well, that's not exciting. Why would I move forward? And you're going to spend $686 a month extra. Still don't have me. It's the balance of these three things. You're going to spend $4,200 at closing. You're going to spend $686 a month extra. But in doing that, you're going to be debt-free in 279 months or sooner on a cash comparative basis, or you're going to be debt-free in 180 months. Either way, net out, you're going to save $55,000 net of your closing costs and all of your payment expenses. That's a pretty compelling reason to look forward and to do this transaction. And if you want to show it visually, come over here to 30 years and look at this and say, look, here's where you're going to be here. Here's where you're going to be in 15 years going with my recommendation. And here's that savings over a 30-year time period, over $100,000. It's simple. It's easy. From here, all I need to do is click on my report page and decide which report I'd like to build for the client, and if I'd like to accomplish anything else with them in terms of credit scoring or snowballing debt. Really no debt snowballing needed here, and if this client needed some credit scoring help, we might add this one too. So hope this helps, and this is a wonderful example of how you can help a client move forward in a transaction. A client who just refinanced 10 months ago now has a really compelling reason to go ahead and take advantage of current market rates and do it one more time. Wish you the best. Have a great day.